Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for coming to my live section. And sorry for the break in transmission. We had to share the link, help people, get people connected. You know how we do it. Please kindly share the link, encourage people to join because we have a lot to talk about today. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to learn today. So please get people to join, get them on board. Let's look at a lot of things. Let's explore, let's ask questions. Let's ensure that we are learning, we are contributing, and that is why I'm here for you. I'm here to ensure that we are learning. I'm here to ensure that we are contributing. And I'm here to ensure that we are making meaningful impacts in our society. And today, before we start, I would officially like to say good evening, beautiful minds. Um, Please share the link, share the live, encourage people to join. Everybody with a child, cousin, niece, nephew, family members. Please, we all need to be on this live stream right now. Okay, so I'll just give us some few minutes whilst we share the link and then we would proceed from there. Okay, so as we continue, if you've got questions, if you've got comments, please use the comment section, and I would be so glad and kind enough to take your questions, take your response, and also learn from you as well. So, good evening. I want you to think for a moment, just take your time, think for a moment about a conversation you did not have whilst growing up. Not the ones about the bed and the bees. Maybe you had that's one awkwardly, but I'm talking about other conversations about yourself, about your body, what you need to know, the one about respect, the one the one about how you actually feel, the one about how you actually feel like in your body when someone touches you, and also the one about the pressure to say yes when you mean to say no, or the confusion of not knowing what you mean. Some of us have been in that position before. Some of us have been in such situations before. We've actually been there. We want to say no, but there's a pressure to say yes. Or the confusion of not knowing what you mean exactly, or the confusion of not knowing what you have to do, or how you have to say things. So there's the one about the knot in your stomach. So when you see a certain image online, and then you begin to wonder, is that normal? Is that me? Are they referring to me? Are they not referring to me? If you cast your mind back, you realize that okay, all those things have been happening to you. And then we are a generation, yeah. And the generation before us, most of them, we are raised in profound silence. So the generation before us, we are asked to keep quiet, we are asked not to ask questions, we are asked not to make intelligent decisions or questions or comments. We are asked, okay, everybody should just, whatever mom, dad, uncle, auntie, niece says should be what should be invoked, and then we're asked to do that. And then the generation before, like I said, we are raised in profound silence, and in those silence something else does the talking. So in a situation where you see people are getting addicted to pornography, so pornography fills the gap. You're trying to ask questions about your body, you're trying to get to know yourself. And then because you're having misinformation on social media, so you go on social media and then misinformation on social media fills the gap. So whatever information you got whilst growing up was on social media. Now, the whispered, often wrong advice of a friend fills the gap. Remember when you're growing up in your teenage age, you had some friends that are very wild, you have the ones that are very good, calm, collected. And then at the end of the day, what happened? The advice had a hold or a grip on you. Now, what that advice did, it filled the gap in your life. Okay, so that advice filled the gap, and then fear begins to set in. And fear begins to set in. So tonight, we're not just going to talk about sex education. No, we are talking about the conversations we never had growing up, the conversations we never had the opportunity to have growing up, and how a radical, earnest, compassionate form of comprehensive sexuality education is not just about saving our adolescents, it's not just about saving this generation, it's about healing ourselves as adults. It's actually about saving a generation and the next generation to come. So let's look at the different crises, what is at stake. So let's be bold because honestly, the stakes are too high. And if you follow the trends in recent time, you see that the adolescents or the teenagers right now, they're very bold. They say the things they want to say, they do the things they want to do. They there's a word I use, they really don't care who you are or what you think you have. They just do their thing and that is it. Okay, so let's be bold because, like I said, the stakes are very high. That this silence has a body count, it has a trauma count. Some of us, we growing up, we've been spoken to in a certain kind of way, and what did that do? That shrinked us. That made us realize that okay, this person, you're not the person you need to be. This person, you're not the person you need to be. So because of that pattern, what happened, some of us, we shrink into some different kind of individual, and that is trauma. Okay, if you begin to think about your life, the things you've been through, the things that has occurred in your life, you realize that at a certain stage of your life, trauma set in as a teenager, as an adolescent. So now I want to talk about the virus. A virus, a common one, a common one. We all know. If you've been following my live section, you already know the virus. And it's the HPV, the human papilloma virus. So common that nearly all sexually active people will get it at some point in their life. And it's what, baby? It's the human papilloma virus. For most of us, the body clears it, but for some, it doesn't. Okay. And when certain high risk strains of HPV doesn't clear, they can over the years, over time, lead to cervical cancer. So I want you to understand, I want you to have this image in your head. So HPV, persistent infection, then cellular changes within the body. So this is not just an abstract. HPV, the human papilloma virus, is actually responsible for over 90% of cervical cancers, and it's also linked to cancer of the throat, the anus, and other organs. And then every year, what does this cervical cancer, what does this virus do? It steals mothers, it steals daughters, it steals sisters, it steals partners, it steals friends from us. So people die as a result of cervical cancer. They don't know what is going on, or some people are not even able to know that they have the virus, or they're in stage 3 or stage 1 or stage 2, scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. They are not aware. So they live with it. And I call HPV a very silent killer. Okay. HPV is just there. It's there. So you're afraid of HIV, you're afraid of hepatitis B, and HPV is just there laughing at us and saying, okay, these people, let's just consider. Life is here. That is how HPV is. Now, here's the silence, okay? How many of our young people, our sons and our daughters, know that HPV, yeah, is primarily transmitted through intimate skin to skin contacts? So everybody wants to explore, everybody wants to have oral sex, everybody wants to kiss, everybody wants to make out. People that go for different parties want to go for different parties. Now, that is not just about how many partners, but about any intimate contact. How many of us know that vaccination in an early adolescence can actually prevent the vast majority of this form of cancers? Now, how many young women on my life section today understand the literal life-saving importance of regular cervical cancer screening and what they are for? Some of us on our life have not even had the cervical cancer screening before. Some of us don't even know what a pap smear screening is. And then some of the men that have beautiful women in their lives don't even know what a pap smear screening is. You are just there tap dancing on the partner, tap dancing, doing whatever you want to do. You've never asked that person, girl, have you gone for a pap smear screening? So like I said in my previous lives, that HPV is not a woman's issue alone. It's a generalized issue. So it's for everybody. So any woman you meet, if you really care about the person, the first question will be, have you done your pap smear screening? Okay, when do you want to go for the screening? Yes, it's expensive. If you could help the person, you help the person get the screening done. So we see this crisis in the teenage girl, in the teenage boy who thinks her boyfriend or who thinks his girlfriend have a cohesive behavior, to say it's just how love is, because no one ever taught them about enthusiastic consent. There's something I call enthusiastic consent. We see it in staggering rates of sexually transmitted infections among young adults who were only taught abstinence. Okay, there's nothing wrong with abstaining. If you know you can abstain, I would advise you to abstain, not practical prevention. Some of them, some of our adolescents currently are have explored, they are over exploring, they are middle exploring, they are everywhere exploring everything, they are doing everything. Okay, so because no one taught them that. So we see it in the staggering rate of sexually transmitted infections among young adults who are only taught how to abstain. And we see them in the oncology world in their 20s, in their 30s, where a battle begins that a conversation and a vaccine could have actually prevented. So this is not to cause moral panic or something. It's actually a public health emergency. And the vaccine is twofold. We have the HPV vaccine, and we also need to educate people. Okay, have a conversation with people, because as a vaccine does not mean we keep pumping it into people. You need to educate them, especially the women living in the rural community. As an advocate for rural health, so that is my own priority. The women living, they need to be educated, because when you go to the market, women, you go to different, you understand why education needs to be done about the human papillomavirus and is linked to cervical cancer. So let's digress a little bit. Let's look at what comprehensive sexuality education is all about. So what is the comprehensive idea? It's not just adding a lesson on, condoms to a biology class. No. That's like teaching someone that's part of a car, but not the rules of the road. So I take you to a driving school. I teach you how to open your bonnet. I teach you how to check for your oil. I teach you how to change your oil. I teach you everything. But I don't teach you the rules of the road. I do not tell you that, okay, maybe when you get to a dual road, you have to maintain your own side of the lane. I don't teach you that. So that's what I said. It's like teaching someone the parts of a car, but not the rules of the road. So you don't teach them how to navigate the storm that comes with comprehensive sexuality education or the ethics of driving. So comprehensive sexuality education is built on pillars of knowledge and protection. You remember when you're in secondary school or high school, you realize that you were not taught some things during your biology class. Okay, you were what's the word, some things were seasoned for you, some things were limited, so they limited some things. They teach you your boobs to start developing at a certain age, your parents to start doing this, doing that, but the details were not given to you. So we have different pillars when we talk about comprehensive sexuality education. We have what I call the biological pillars. My students, I taught my students what there's something I call the adolescent development traits. We have the biological We have the cognitive and we have the psychosocial. So let's look at the biological pillar that everyone knows about when we talk about comprehensive sexuality education. So the biological pillar has to do with the facts of reproduction. So there's reproduction, there's puberty, and there is disease. And that is what most of us are being taught in school. So this is where we directly link HPV to cervical cancers and other cancers. So we are able to explain how viruses work, how cancer develops, and how vaccination, the HPV vaccine, is a form of cancer prevention. Now, it's one of the most powerful tools we have. So we look at the emotional and social pillar as well, which is one of the pillars of knowledge and protection when we are talking about comprehensive sexuality education. So the emotional and social pillar is where the silent conversation lives, is where how you able to handle crushes. Okay, you have a teenager at home, you have an adolescent at home, you have a niece and nephew, and you have kids that are getting to their teenage age. How do you teach them to handle their crushes? How do you teach them to handle peer pressure? What does healthy friendship feel like versus romantic love? Because right now, even as an adult, some of us are unable to differentiate between healthy friendship and romantic love. So some of us even intertwine the both of them. So how you able, if you as an adult, you're not at this your age, you're not able to recognize manipulation, how do you think a teenager will be able to recognize manipulation? So this emotional and social pillar actually teaches consent as a continuous, joyful conversation and respect for boundaries. Now, when I say consent, I'm not only talking about women giving consent. The men also, the boys, the teenage boys also have to give consent. So consent is for both parties, not just for the females, but the men as well. So let's look at the third pillar for the comprehensive sexuality education. Let's look at the practical protection pillar. So there's something I call the practical protection pillar. The practical protection pillar is where the life-saving skills that we need really comes into play. So it's how to assess healthcare confidently, how to discuss vaccination with the kids, with the teenagers, with you as an adult, with your boyfriend, whatever. And the importance of regular screening. I will keep emphasizing on the importance of regular screening for HPV to prevent cervical cancer. Every woman has to get a regular screening to check for the virus. A pap smear needs to be done. Okay, so there's this is one of the critical thinkings we need to do to combat misinformation about vaccines and health. Okay, so comprehensive sexuality education is age appropriate. So at the age of 8, I suggest that governments, schools should put this in play because teenagers are exploring. They have their phones, they have their gadgets. Whatever you lie to them, all they have to do is go on the internet. And they are so smart in such a way that whatever you hide from them, they would sort it out from the internet. They would just go. Even if you block all the things, they could just still keep sorting it out. Their brains are wired to think differently. So at age 8, it might be they will be learning how their body fights germs and how their body fight germs and how vaccines work. And at age 12, you as a parent should be learning, understanding puberty and preparing them for the HPV vaccine as a shield for their future. So you give them the HPV vaccine is not to promote promiscuity, no. It's to protect the child against the cervical cancer. Okay. When you give the child the vaccine, you're not telling the child to go and be disciples of all nations and begin to explore. No, that is not what you're doing. Now, at 16, you need to have that deep factual understanding, that conversation of STI abstinence prevention with your child, with your teenagers. If you're a healthcare professional and you work in the adolescent sector, you need to have that conversation. So you need to tell them how the the real world things. Sometimes our parents tend to shade us from a lot of things. So we are not really exposed. We don't really have the idea of what the world out there is until you get there. And then when you get there, you make your mistakes, you learn from your mistake. But if you were taught the mistakes you made, you wouldn't have made them. So let's look at the ripple effects. Let's look at how we could save this generation. I see people saying, oh, this generation, they're really exploring. There is nothing we can do for them. I don't give up on people like that. I think there's a way we could save them. So there's something I call the ripple effect, saving our generation. Now, here's the transformative part. When we give a 12-year-old an accurate information about HPV and its links to cervical cancer, we are able to provide access to the vaccine. So we are not just preventing a virus, we are preventing cancer. We are saving the 35-year-old woman she would become from a terrifying diagnosis, a gruesome treatment, or an early grave. That is what we are protecting. We are also protecting young men. So we are making them aware that they are carriers who can also protect themselves and their future partners. So what are we doing? We are quietly healing the adult in the room right now. So how many of you are hearing this and you're trying to make a mental note to check on your own screening status? Have you done your vaccine? Have you done your HPV screening? Have you had the vaccine? Have you done your pap smear? So you need to take your child, your teenage child, talk about them, talk about the vaccine to them, talk about the comprehensive sexuality education for them, because it gives us power over our health and the courage to protect our adolescents. So this is actually more than risk prevention. It's about empowerment and life preservation. If our teenagers are taught the things, they are given the information the way it should be, some of them will not end up the way they are ending up right now. Some of them don't have that information. So what they do, they go into the world and become disciples of all nations. So they decide to explore. Okay. So it's about equipping young people. We need to equip young people with literal tools to safeguard their future, their physical health, their mental health, their psychological health. Okay. We are all while also building the capacity for respect, communication, and emotional well-being. So we are giving our teenagers, we are giving ourselves as an adult a future. So we need to promote comprehensive sexuality education. We need to talk about a lot of things to our generation, the generation right now we have. So we are not there to condemn them, but we are there to give them education. We are there to promote them. We are there to help them so that at the long run, they will know that, okay, yes, this is what is happening. Okay, this is this. Okay, this is that. That's what we are there to do, not to judge them. So this is what I'm urging us to go into the world and be this week and next week. So there's something I call the call, becoming a conversation starter. So what do we do? The opposition is actually loud. So we claim that some people claim that if we introduce a comprehensive sexuality education, we are sexualizing the children. So what do you think? So do you think that if we claim this education, we are making the children look bad? Okay, before TikTok banned my page, let me not say that. We're making the children look bad, we're making the children explore. Do you think we should include, so let's use the chat button, the chat sections and everything. Do you think we should include a comprehensive sexuality education in our schools, in our high schools, in our primary schools, in the government sectors, in the hospitals? Do you think we should include comprehensive sexuality education? Should include comprehensive sexuality education. Okay, so do you think we should include comprehensive sexuality education in this generation right now? Yes, my lady said yes, we should. I think it's something we need to do. We need to include it. You can't be sugarcoating information that are out there. I believe that if you give a teenager the right information, you give that teenager the right to choose between wrong or right. But when you begin to sugarcoat it, we have this mentality that you're trying to protect that person. Even as an adult, there are things they would tell you, you would think, oh, maybe someone is just playing on you or something, and then you want to go and explore. But sometimes you're not giving the right info. It's like going into a business, maybe a farming, or you're building on a swampy area, and you don't have the information that, okay, this area is going to get flooded in the next 10 to 15 years or something, and you build on that. Or it's like in the Bible, when the man built, or the information, the word he had fell on the rocky soil, and he didn't grow, and everything died. So if you're beginning to uh minimize the information you give to these teenagers, boy oh boy, they are exploring, they are doing things. So it will just be we will just be the weapon that fashioned against ourselves, basically. So we need to give them that information. So the opposition is loud. Some people say, oh, we should not include comprehensive sexuality education to in the school curriculum, in the churches, at our workplace, because we are promoting some level of, that word ahead. But I think if you teach them, and you also teach them and promote abstinence, then they will know what to do, because they're exploring. In my place, they call some of the teenagers that explore, they call them small pin chargers. And I seriously did not like that. But they're exploring. So why don't you give them the information? So I'm asking again, should we include that in our school curriculum, or we should just leave it? Okay. So, but let's be clear. Silence is the real danger. When you try to shield someone from something without giving them the right information, is actually a real danger. Okay. So ignorance, there's something I say to myself. I say ignorance is the real risk. So you're ignorant of something is actually the real risk. So leaving children vulnerable to disease. So my lady says because it will help them make informed decisions about their life. And I totally agree. You help them, it will make decisions, informed decisions about their lives. Let them make the decision, but give them the information and let them decide on the decisions. Okay, so when you leave children vulnerable to diseases, coercion, and preventable cancers, that's where the true failure lies. So we need to give them that knowledge. Conversation protects. Vaccination saves lives. So please, please, boy, girl, man, woman, child, please start asking your friends, your partners, your teenagers, did you get the HPV vaccine when the government rolled it out? Or were you just tap dancing or something? Get the vaccine. See that money you want to use and do Christmas here, that you want to party hard, you want to paint the place red, purple, you want to go to Paris, you want to go to this, you want to go to that. Just go and get the vaccine. Get the vaccine, help yourself, get the testing done, help you. See, any boy that will go and buy you iPhone 17 now and he's not asking you, have you done the vaccine? That person is have you had your HPV vaccine? That person is the weapon that is fashioned against you. My sister, flee. Okay, so get the testing done, get the vaccine done. So if you're a parent or a caregiver, start the conversation with your teenagers like, did you know we have a vaccine that can prevent several type of cancers? So you frame it as health decision, okay? So if you're a mentor, be the trusted source of fact. So learn how to dispel the myth about HPV, learn how to dispel the myth about um, comprehensive sexuality education. So advocate for science-based, health-focused education in our schools. And that is why you're here, and that is why you're on this live. We need to advocate for a science-based, health education, comprehensive sexuality education. This is actually a matter of life and death, because in the next 50, 60 years, we will not be here. This generation will take over. So let's start now to groom them to be better people. So there's this mentality most people have. I actually, when I hear that, I just laugh. Some people will say, "Oh, I'm training my child. My child is very good. My child is very perfect. Everything," and I smile. The reason why I smile is you are training your child at home to be everything good. Your child will go and meet someone else that hasn't been given a proper upbringing. So when they come together now, what will happen? So it's supposed to be a community thing. It's supposed to be a global, it's supposed to be everybody together. Okay. So we are going to end really soon. You know, it's 30 minutes, and 30 minutes is 30 minutes. Okay. So I'm not just teaching you about XCX. I'm teaching you about health, I'm teaching you about longevity, and I'm teaching you about respect. So we need to provide a shield against future fear. We are writing a different, healthier story for our next generation. So this conversation we never had about the HPV and cervical cancer does not have to be the conversation they never have. So we can be the generation that ends the silence and starts the prevention. We can protect, we can save a generation and the next. So this conversation actually starts with you. So let's start now. Okay, let's start now. Beautiful minds, beautiful souls. And I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for coming to my live section. And trust me, next week is going to be the bomb. So come, we're going to have conversations, discussions, we're going to have chats. We'll talk about a lot of things, okay? So I will see you next week. Thank you to my YouTube family. Thank you to my Facebook family, my TikTok family, those that have gifted us, those that have liked our comments, those that have shared, and those that I keep sending broadcast every Thursday. Thank you so much. And I love you guys. And I would see you all next week by God's grace. Bye bye.